Welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. And I'm your hostess today, Mary Crafts, and I have an amazing guest today who knows a lot about the subject she's going to be talking about. And the guest is me. I've started doing a series on my social media of strength training after 70. And as I'm 71, I'm just sharing with you what I know. And I've gotten so much great feedback from people about wondering, well, can I do that? And do you think it's even possible? Is it too late for me? And I don't even think that I could do this. Well, all of you who watch this show on a regular basis know that I have a motto that I live by, and it's never too late, and nothing is impossible. That if you want to do this, if you want to be healthy, I believe it's within everyone's grasp. Now, I also know from personal experience that not complete healing is always available to everyone. But we can be our very best selves when we choose to be. I didn't start this process until I was 50. And at that point in time, when I took a look at myself, I said, this is not who I want to be. I didn't know if I would live very much longer. My heart, my organs, everything had to work so hard for so long. And at 284 pounds, I knew I wanted to make a change. But change does not happen until the why for change becomes stronger than your fear of changing. And by that, what I mean is, so many times we think we want to change, and we even start down the path of changing. But sometimes our why for why we change isn't stronger than our fear of moving forward. I remember at 50 thinking, I had tried so many things. I had done so many different diets. I had done so many, I can't even tell you how many, different pills and those kind of things. Whenever the doctor would say, try this, I would try it. Fen, you all remember that craze. And I was like everybody else. I lost weight, but gained it right back and then some. And so at that point, I was almost afraid to try again. Wasn't it just be better to accept where I was and just love myself the way I was and where I was? The biggest problem with that is that I was fooling myself. I wasn't loving where I was, and I wasn't loving who I am. And as I embarked on this journey, I knew that it was twofold. I knew that it was one, becoming fit, healthy, strong, being wellness in everything of my life. But when I embraced that, I knew that the other was also true, that I needed wellness in every area of my life. That I was never going to achieve wellness long-term in the physical part of my life until I received wellness long-term in the emotional, spiritual, and mental and social pieces of my life. And so I began on that journey of healing the whole me, not just a piece of me. When we start down this journey and we're just thinking, oh, I'm just going to work on this one thing and everything else will fall into place. Okay, maybe you have one thing that's shouting at you that you need to start here. Okay, I'm all for that. But you have to begin to look at the whole. The whole is what grabs a hold of you and will hold you together as you start this journey. So I could very easily start on what were fitness ideas I had on how to become fit. But in order to maintain it, in order to stay committed to it, in order to have the strength that I needed to move forward, I also had to begin to believe that I could do it. And finally, the pain of being where I was stuck as someone who did not feel I was lovable by anyone else, and particularly me. I needed to begin there. I needed to understand my why, that I was where I was. not just by going on some diet, but why I was where I was. And the pain of being here became so great that I was no longer afraid to change. I knew I could do it. I knew I was resilient. I knew what grit was. So I just did two things. I started with just two things, not a diet, not a weight loss regime, just two things. And I'm going to offer them to you. And I will tell you that these two things can change your life. Absolutely change your life if you will commit to them to do them. One is to not drink calories. Do not drink sugar-filled juices, calories that are laden in your coffee with cream and sugars and mochas and all these kind of things, sugar sodas, those kinds of things. Spend your calories on things that are going to fill you up. Just stop today. And now I occasionally will have an alcoholic drink, but not very often. And I hardly ever have wine. Wine just does not sit with my digestive system. I listen to my body as it was talking to me. And it causes me to have a lot of inflammation, for my digestive system not to work well. And then even though for some people it's a digestive enhancer, I listened to me and it wasn't for me. So the second thing, and this probably the most important thing, is I made a decision to not eat after 5. Now, some people say, like, are you kidding me? I'm just getting off work at 5. I'm just getting home. How could I possibly do that, Mary? That's nuts. What's the next thing? I want you to think about, what if you were no longer afraid of taking on this goal and you absolutely stepped into it and decided, I am going to not eat after 5. Nowadays that I'm at my goal weight and I'm in the maintaining phase, I have moved that. First, I moved it to 6, and then I moved it to 7. Now, I definitely do not eat after 7. Now, are there exceptions to that rule? Absolutely. Do I sometimes am out at a party or we go out to dinner late and I eat something? Yes. I just eat less. I eat better choices. And I really try and make sure that I do not put anything into my stomach 4 hours before I go to bed. So in the beginning, when I started this at 5, I didn't want to put anything in my stomach after 5, so that by the time I had food the next day, it would have been 15 hours. And that was a critical step for me. 15 hours of intermediate fasting will change your life. When I'm at the gym and I see people who have a huge gut on their stomach, and they have to spread their legs open to kind of get it to sit, I can tell them dollars to dime what's their issue. People put on weight more evenly on their body than that. But when it's right here centered in their gut, they're eating late night. They're like, oh, I'm getting ready to go to bed. I better eat something. I've been watching TV and it's been a couple hours since I had dinner. I better eat something because I'm feeling a little hungry. Well, actually, you're not feeling hungry, but you are in the habit of eating. This is going to be like really hard for the first 3 or 4 days. And that's when most people stop. When I give this tip to people, most people stop after 3 days. They don't know that success is that close, that it's just around the corner. And if they just go 5 days, they're going to have seen the scale drop, and that hunger is going to begin to dissipate. And keep in mind, it's not hunger that you're feeling 2 hours after you ate or 3 hours after you ate. It's just habit of satiating your emotional needs, probably, with food. So what happens when you go to bed hungry? 1, you don't have food in your stomach, so your body is not trying to digest this day and trying to burn the calories that you've put into your stomach instead of resting. If you go to bed with your stomach empty, Okay, the first 2 or 3 days, you might think, I'm not going to make it through the night. You might wake up in the middle of the night. Oh my gosh, I've got to get something. Just go back to sleep. Get up, get a drink of water. 9 times out of 10, when we think we're hungry, we're not hungry. We are thirsty. Our body is telling us we're thirsty when we misinterpret that as hunger. Just get up, have a drink of water, and go back to bed. The first 2 or 3 nights I did this, and I'm like, okay, I usually stay up till midnight, but I'm going to bed tonight at 9:30 because I just don't want to be thinking about food. What happened the next morning is I woke up and I was actually less hungry than usual. And going till 9 o'clock to have that intermediate fasting was actually not a hard thing. And it became easier and easier and easier. Once I kept those 2 rules and I could see on the scale every single day that I did this, I was going down and down and down. I started at 284 pounds, okay? And I went down and down. I added in a physical part of this. I was dealing with one physical part and then going to another physical part. And I also wanted to begin dealing with my emotional part. So I made a list of every time that I thought about eating something, I would write down the time of day and what I was thinking about or what I was in the middle of just before I thought about eating. Most of the time I could pinpoint it. I was thinking about something that I had to do where I was feeling fear and where I wanted to procrastinate it. And so instead I would run and get a bite to eat. What a way to put off doing something. Oh, I got to get something to eat first. Or I would keep snacks in my drawer at work so that whenever I was feeling scared of something, I would just eat. I was a nervous eater that used food to keep my fears at bay. And I would write this on a piece of paper. The time, reached for food. I was thinking about doing this project where I was worried about being rejected. I mean, people oftentimes, when you're in the catering business and you put out a bid, people oftentimes rejected your bid. But every time I would take it as this personal affront. And so I would just reach for some food and then type everything up and then have food along while I was typing it up. And it was a crazy habit I was in. But by keeping track of it on a piece of paper, I began to see the patterns and I began to see how I was dealing with fear. And I could see how I could make better choices. And I began carrying around a big jug instead of Coke or Diet Coke to suck on to relieve my stress. Jugs of water. And it used to be that I would have to chew gum all the time just to satiate the dry mouth. Now that I drink all this water, I hardly ever chew gum. I don't ever get bad breath because I am very hydrated. So there's so many pluses to this. And then I began to add a second piece to the physical. Now that I was not drinking anything with calories and I was not eating after 5, I began to add the physical piece. For someone who had never been to the gym, never participated in a team sport, had always been chosen last in grade school, I was never going to subject myself to that humiliation again the rest of my life. I decided that I was moving on from physical activity in my life. I was never again going to be on the edge of the high dive board with all the children watching me get too scared to go off. I was in control. I was never again going to be on a team sport where I had to stand up there and be chosen last, day after day after day after day. I could choose something different. Well, I still wasn't ready to be on a team sport, but I could compete against me, and I could bring my best self. So I signed up for my first gym membership, and I went. And for the first year, I just walked. For the first year, I could walk 15 to 20 minutes, 15 minutes at 2 miles an hour the first day. Now I walk 30 minutes at full incline. Well, I go up and down, up and down, up and down. So I have a little random kind of thing going on. And I go anywhere from 3.8 to 4.2 miles an hour uphill just to keep my cardio and my muscle memory from setting in. And I can do it. And it took me 2 or 3 years to get up to that point, but I've been doing it ever since. I've had nearly 20 years of this new lifestyle, and I hope to shout, I feel great. I get up every day and I think, is this 71? Well, if it is, I'm ready to be here, because I'll tell you, I didn't feel this good at 51. I didn't feel this good at 41. I didn't feel this good and this empowered at 31. I didn't feel this good and this empowered at 21. I was even not this good at 11. And to see myself getting stronger every day. So finally at age 56, I by now had lost all my weight, and I hadn't quite lost all my weight, but I was below 200. That was a plus. And I decided it was time to start strength training, because I'm telling you about strength training because it is what helps people live the longest of all lives. They think that it's cardio, but when you start doing research on this, you realize it's not cardio. It's strength training that brings longevity to our lives for several reasons, okay? One, it strengthens your core so that you can keep your balance. And the number one problem that elderly people have is their balance, and they fall. They fall a lot. And the life expectancy of a woman older than 60 who falls lives for 3 years after her fall. That's kind of horrifying. So I decided that was not going to be me. I was going to strengthen my core so I was strong. And there are 2 things that you can do to test how strong your core is. Okay, you ready for them? The first one is to be able, let's just see if you can do the first part of it. Stand up off of a chair without using your hands. Scoot to the edge of it. And just stand right up. Now, I can't do that and demonstrate it for you because I have all this equipment here in front of me. But I challenge you just to stand up. When you're in a movie theater, do you reach forward for the chair in front of you and pull yourself up? In an airplane, do you grab a hold of the poor guy in front of you and just yank his chair back to get you to stand up? Learn to stand up on your own core. Get to the edge. Use your quads, plant your feet, and stand up. Now, this is how you really know someone's age. If they can get up off the floor without using their hands. Now just think about that for just a minute. Get off the floor without using your hands. I practice this at the gym. After I've done my rollout and my core exercises, I lay straight out, put my arms way above me, my feet out, and then come up, grab my core, and just stand up. It's not easy. I practiced and practiced and practiced, and now I can do it every day. I can stand up without using my hands, and I'm better at it now than I was when I first started by a long shot. The second thing to test your core is if you can stand on one foot for other than 1 second. Everyone can stand there. 1, okay, but stand. If you watch my training videos on my social media, you'll see this, but I put my 1 foot, hook it behind the leg of my other, and then stand. Now, sometimes you want to put your arms out to get your balance. Some people, of course, try and touch their nose, they touch their stomach, they do all sorts of crazy things. I just am okay if I can stand. And I do put my hands out here just for some balance, and stand as long as I can. A well-seasoned core, you should be able to stand for 30 seconds. Now you can stand longer than that, but 30 seconds is how you test your core strength. So standing up without using your hands from a sitting position to start with, and from the floor when you get really good at it, and then standing on one leg, then the other leg. Usually one leg is better than the other. One side of the body is stronger than the other. And just try that and begin to stand longer and longer and longer and longer until your core is strong. Now on my training videos, on my social media, I am teaching core exercises, and they're in my reels. So if you follow me and you look on my reels, whether that's on LinkedIn or Instagram, Facebook, you'll see and be able to see my training videos, because usually I'm in this kind of a black workout outfit, okay? And whenever you see those reels that I'm looking like this, then you know, oh, those are Mary's things. Yeah, I need to watch those, okay? But I want you to be strong. The other thing is that if you have a large muscle mass, the chances of you gaining back the weight that you've lost is like drastically reduced, because your muscles need energy. They need calories. Fat and skin don't need much. They just kind of exist. You put a little bit in them and they go. Now I can go back to eating 2,000 calories a day. I rarely eat that many, but if I want to, I know I can, because my muscles are burning them. If you don't have muscles, you're not burning high amounts of calories. And people say, oh, I just have a slow metabolism. Well, maybe, but more likely, if your metabolism is slow, it's because you don't have muscle mass. And there's nothing wrong with having muscle mass. It's not just for guys. Now, some people say, Mary, I'm sorry, I don't want to look like you. I don't want to have that kind of muscle mass. Okay, then don't lift heavy. I lift pretty heavy. One day a week, I lift heavy on my upper body, and one day I lift light on my upper body. One day I lift heavy on my lower body, and one day I lift light. And guys should be, they're looking into, they need to lift heavy all the time. But if you don't want that kind of look, you don't think it's feminine, well, I think you're wrong. But if you don't, then just lift light weights and do more repetitions. So like when I'm lifting on my biceps, I am lifting about a 20-pound free weight. If I'm lifting on a pulley, I'm using 25 pounds. If I'm lifting on a bar, I use 30 pounds. But just stick with 10 pounds. 5, 10, 15, stick with the lighter weights. You will still be building muscle, but you will never get giant muscles. And to be honest with you, as much as I lift, if I were a guy, I would look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But because I'm a woman, there's no way that I can ever build that kind of muscle mass unless I'm doing steroid injections, the roids, or unless I'm doing heavy amounts of testosterone. And the guys that are building that kind of muscle mass, they're doing both. Okay. I can always recognize somebody who's using roids, whether it's a guy or a girl. They just look different. Their jawlines are different. Their muscle definition is different. And that's not the kind of thing that a woman naturally can build. You can build muscle mass and not look, just look at all my social media feed. I don't look like some gargoyle with this crazy kind of muscle mass, but I do look like I have muscle. And the reason I want you to strength train and to tone is it keeps your skin toned. Now think about that. I lost half of my body weight. I went from size 24 and a half, 26 actually, down to now a size 5. So I've had plenty of skin, okay? I have had some skin removal in some places. I'm not going to lie to you. I never had liposuction. I want to lose my own fat. And in fact, when I went in and I did some skin removal, the guy said to me, you know, Mary, you're the only person who I've ever removed skin and didn't also remove fat with lipo. You did that on your own. And I did. But I had just bat wings. And I still don't have the best arms. But because I've been strength training, they're not bad. They're not bad for 71. And yes, I have some crepiness, but it's not bad for all that I put this body through. And I'm going to keep strength training into my 90s, past 100, whatever, whatever it takes, like Mr. Mom, 210, 220, whatever it takes, 205. One of my favorite movies still. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. I loved it. Okay. And this is something that I can offer you because I know a lot about it. I know a lot about nutrition. How do you think I did this? By not knowing nutrition? By taking some crazy drugs? By doing all sorts of things that are bad for my body? I did this and I studied and I worked hard to learn about nutrition. Back then, we didn't have the internet as much as, no, really didn't when I started this. I started this in 2003. We didn't have the internet. You couldn't just go on and Google, muscle strength training for women. Or what's the best thing? Or how do I learn about how to consume fats? Now I know about it. Remember that whole craze we had when we weren't supposed to be eating fats? And we went everything fat-free, and we did substitute fats and all sorts of crazy things? That's nuts. So I'm going to talk to you about fats. There are hydrogenated fats and non-hydrogenated fats. Hydrogenated fats do not get. Those trans fats, your body has no idea what to do with. It just stores it. It doesn't know how to digest it. It doesn't know how to get rid of it. When John Wayne died, he had 40 pounds of undigested fat in his intestines. Okay? Your body doesn't know what to do with it. So just stop with the canola oils, stop with the soybean oils, start with the corn oils, stop. Okay? We should be consuming oils that look like this. Olive oil, avocado oil, butter. I love butter. I eat so much butter. And yet I'm 19% body fat because my body knows what to do with that. It uses it, it keeps it if I need it, and if it doesn't, it gets rid of it. I remember when my mom, I'm old enough, I was born in 1953, my mom brought home what they called oleo or margarine, blue bonnet, and it was white, looked like Crisco, and no one would eat it. And so they sent you home with a yellow packet of dye so you could mix it into this margarine and have it look like butter rather than spreading Crisco on your toast. Just think about that. And the American Food Association, the Food and Drug Association, approved it. Okay? That you're adding artificial dye. You've got to use your own brain. Things that God made and that were put on this planet by our universe to build our bodies, they're good things. Now, corn is not necessarily a bad thing, but corn oil that's been processed to the nth degree of its life, that's a bad thing. Okay, avocado olive oil is simply pressed. And when you're choosing olive oil, choose extra virgin, the first pressing, where it's pure olive oil. And I cook with that. I cook, if I'm going to fry something, I fry with avocado oil because it has a high flash point. Now, if I want the flavor of butter, I mix it. I put half butter, half avocado oil, increases the flash point, and I can fry in that. But please stop using that fat that just your body doesn't know what to do with. And then discovering that really what's bad for my body is anything that's artificial. When I go to the grocery store, I shop around the outside. Maybe I need something in the center. Okay, maybe I might venture in there to get a can of black beans if I'm going to make something, Mexican or something. I make this delicious hash with butternut squash and black beans and chili powder, and I throw in a couple eggs to scramble it, and I put a little grated cheese over it. Cheese! Oh my gosh, that's the other thing you don't have to give up. Cheese is really good for you. It has a lot of protein. Obviously, I don't want you to go out and eat 2 pounds of cheese, but having cheese on things is wonderful for you. Those are things that are natural. Now, I don't want you to use processed cheese. Don't get the cheese whiz out. That's processed cheese. American cheese, processed cheese. What's the number one ingredient on it? Oil. Processed oil. If you're eating things that you don't know the ingredients on them, just stop. Go to the produce section. Go on into the meat section. Nothing wrong with meat. I do eat it in moderation. I usually have meat 2 or 3 times a week, and fish for sure. Every single week I have fish once or twice. I have yogurt. But look on the bottle of on the container. Some units, they look the same. When you pick it up and look at it and read, become a label reader. Some yogurt has like 4 grams of protein in a half a cup. The same kind of yogurt, it's non-fat yogurt. It's I don't look for non-fat, but the non-fat has the highest protein, and it has 18 grams of protein in a half a cup. So I eat a lot of yogurt. I eat cottage cheese, mixed with a lot of wonderful fruits. Berries are your best. They're full of antioxidants. Just become smart. I'm not afraid of a banana, but I don't eat a lot of those. I probably eat a banana every other week, maybe, because there's a lot of potassium. But canned fruit, seriously? Those are things that came out in the 50s to make life easier for our mothers. My mother, who was born in 1915, let me tell you, when those convenience foods came out and TV dinners and things, she was elated because she'd been slaving over 3 meals a day for her entire life and doing wash by hand and in a wringer washer and hanging it on the clothesline and bringing it back in and ironing in it. Let me tell you, she was ready for convenience. And we gobbled those things up. Well, my life isn't like that now. My wash, I don't have to iron everything. I take it out while it's still damp, lay it across my chairs, hang it up, and it's ready to go. I don't have to iron. If I do, it goes to the dry cleaners. I do a lot of steaming. But I don't have to do those things. I have to hang it on the clothesline. Food now comes chopped, packaged, but fresh. I don't have to spend hours chopping. If you don't want to, buy it already chopped. But make sure that it's not put in a package with preservative. I much prefer that you take an hour doing your food than an hour watching TV. Make it a therapeutic thing. Turn on some wonderful music. Turn on some soul-feeding podcasts like mine or anybody else's. I listen to Jay Shetty, Joe Dispenza. I listen to so many wonderful people. I have to still say, even after all these years, Oprah is my favorite because she speaks to me. Oprah and I are almost the exact same age. We both had that same kind of struggle with our weight. And we're a lot alike. Someday, I hope to meet her. I also wanted to meet Julia Child because she was my cooking icon that I followed and just wanted to be like Julia. She died before I had the chance. But people say, who do you want to have dinner with? Julia Child. And before that, I'd have it with my mom. Because you know what I would say to my mom? And this is kind of important as I wind down this podcast about strength training and staying fit and some different ideas. I'm also about encouraging you to watch my social media and my reels. I may put that on YouTube someday, but for right now, that's where to find it. And I just take you right along with me to the gym, and we do our things. I'm actually going to be taking Tiffany Peterson with me shortly. She wanted to know, and Tiffany's skinny as a rail. We had opposite problems growing up. She was a toothpick. I wasn't, okay. But she would like to get some definition in her arms. I'm like, come with me 3 or 4 times to the gym. So we're going to do that. I'm going to film that. Jen Bennett, an old friend of mine, reached out and said, Mary, I need your help. Wouldn't you like to add this to your reels? How you're training me to begin to make a transformation. So I'm going to be putting that up there. You can watch that. The best way is to follow me on social media or subscribe to me here on this channel, because I'll be posting a lot of things on my YouTube, and you can come with me. Now, back to my mom. If I could have dinner with my mom, I never asked her what it was like to grow up as Eileen Wilson. I never asked her. I was too worried about growing up as me. She was the oldest of 9 children. Life for her was hard. She was the daughter of a sharecropper. Life was not easy. She went to a country school, a little one-room schoolhouse, until she was in high school, and then came into the big town of Raleigh, where she met my dad, the big town of 250 people. And she knew how to work, and she was a hard worker. But I also know that she never felt enough. Growing up the way she did, life was hard, and she never nestled into her mother's arms, and her mother never told her and whispered in her ears, "You are enough, my child. You are smart. You are strong. You are beautiful." She never heard those words, and thus I didn't either. I had to learn them on my own, that I am strong, and I am smart, and I am beautiful. I didn't know that. Mom, I see you now. I'm healing the generations that came before me, so that from this point on, the lineage that follows behind me are beautiful and strong and powerful, resilient, and they know it. Thank you for birthing me. Thank you for the opportunity to go through growth, to find me. And now I'm one strong, badass woman. I have a purpose, I have grace, and I have grit. I invite you on the journey. Namaste.
Crafting a meaningful life.